there's an update when it comes to Quant in 2026, because does anyone out there still remember Quant Fusion? If so, I'll talk about it, and I'll talk about what they recently did regarding that. Now, nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I'll discuss the hypothetical idea of why I think about 2000 later on, and I'll get a little bit more into the price later and why I haven't gotten that out of my mind, but besides that point, when I take a look at Quant, I want to discuss this first, then we'll get into that. Here's the thing. Quant, very recently, they say exciting progress on Quant Fusion as they kick off 2026. Now, again, the Quant Fusion Layer 2.5 posted this, but again, it's like Quant, related, right? The thing is this. People may be thinking, okay, what updates went on? Well, a bunch of random stuff. It's kind of complicated. It's whatever, right? But I think the main gist of it is at least they still care about that. Now, in case someone may be wondering what is Quant Fusion, let me just refresh a little bit as to what this is. Now, basically, Quant Fusion interoperates and accelerates public and permission blockchains, making blockchains ready for enterprise-grade demand. So basically, Quant being focused on this, I think is not such a bad thing, because it's like sort of being focused on the enterprise side of things, right? Because enterprises, usually they have the capital, the volume, the resources to kind of make things happen. So when I take a look at something like Quant being focused on that, I feel like it's pretty cool. The thing is this, though. People may be thinking, okay, who cares about this? Well, it's just like adding another layer, basically when it comes to Quant, just adding kind of another aspect of it, which I think makes the overall sort of vibe when it comes to Quant seem a little bit more cohesive and kind of fits the whole vibe of a project that's trying to focus on enterprise adoption. And I think interoperability does matter because, again, if we take a look at Quant Fusion, one of the aspects of it, arguably, I would say, is interoperability. Now, why is this something that I even care about? It's because, let me just give an example of something lacking interoperability. Like, there's many blockchains out there, many networks, but because a lot of them are independent of one another, a lot of them just can't freely interact with one another, meaning that if that is the case, they do lack interoperability. So then having interoperability is actually pretty crucial, I think, for the future growth of this space and just kind of the advancement of blockchain technology overall. So when I take a look at Quant, being focused on Quant Fusion and having an aspect of interoperability somewhere in there, I think it is pretty cool and pretty awesome to me, at least. Now, with all this in mind, though, Quant, people like to tell me, well, who cares about this? I get it. Sentiment isn't the best as of right now when it comes to the altcoin space and also just Quant in general. I mean, it's not really doing that much in the grand scheme of things. But you know what? Why haven't that idea, or should I say, why hasn't, right, the idea of 2000 left my mind? For whatever reason, I just can't get it out of my mind. The reason is because we're around 27 times lower than that. That's a thing that's going on right now. Of course, I'm totally aware of that. But here's the thing. At 2000, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around 24 billion. Now, is that a groundbreaking figure? No, I don't think so. It's actually not. Far from it, actually, because, come on. Dogecoin reached over 80 billion in 2021 in terms of market cap. 2021. We're not talking about like, oh, we just saw it a couple months ago. That was years ago. Now, granted, that was during an altcoin season, right? But what if there's an altcoin season this time around? Does 24 billion sound so ridiculous now that I mentioned Dogecoin reached over 80 billion? I don't know, but this is just kind of my mindset. Keep in mind, in the peak of the 2021 cycle, basically, there was around 300 million owners. Right now, I think we can all pretty much agree this is no altcoin season we're experiencing as of right now, right? Even despite that, there's over 600 million owners, supposedly more than ever before in history. So more than ever before. That's kind of crazy to think about, I think, sometimes for me. And I still haven't seen an altcoin season. So what would happen if there was one? The thing is this, people like to say, okay, well, there's more owners, but it doesn't mean that it could experience something like that before just because there's more projects right now as opposed to back then. And I kind of get that argument, right? But also at the same time as well, kind of my perspective is that when it comes to Quant, how many of something like that, how many of those Quant archetypes appeared ever since 2021 that have the fundamentals, the vibe, the reputation, all this? I mean, who? This is the way to take a look at it. Like, who? That's the thing. It's like, for instance, Michael Jordan. when he retired, who became the next Michael Jordan, right? Sometimes that type of stuff is like once in a generation type of vibe. So when I take a look at this space, I get it. It's a little bit of a different thing. But the thing is this as well. Ever since 2021, I just haven't really seen another project that could kind of fundamentally, not in terms of the charts, not in terms of the market cap, because many projects out there have outgrown something like Quant. Totally aware of that. But in terms of fundamentals, I just haven't really found a close second when it comes to this. This is just my perspective though, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. So yes, more projects appeared overall, but how many of them are actually really competing with Quant? This is my perspective. So when there's the argument that, yeah, there's more owners as of right now, but there's more projects, true, I agree with that. But it doesn't mean that a lot of those new projects are actually literally competing with Quant from a fundamental standpoint of view. Quant's not really competing against memes, by the way, right? So if a lot of memes popped up, this is not about that. Like, Quant is not a meme. So the thing is, when I just take a look at Quant overall, the hypothetical idea of 2000, it just hasn't left my mind for whatever reason. But I did kind of mention some reasons before, but you know what? This is the way to take a look at it. However, when I take a look at Quant as well, I feel like fundamentally, why is it kind of, I think, a little bit hard to find, for me at least, a close competitor? It's just because I think it kind of represents something to me that's a little bit unique, that's not that easy to sort of do for a lot of other developers out there, because we have to consider Quant, or more specifically the Quant network. There is the Overledger OS and the Overledger network. But the Overledger network, it's made up of the Overledger OS users. But here's the thing, the Overledger OS, it allows something called a multi-chain application to be built. An application that is built on top of multiple blockchains instead of just one. Traditionally, right, usually we see a lot of developers out there build on only just one blockchain. But through the Overledger OS, it kind of flips the script. You know what I mean? It kind of changes it and says, you know what? Maybe we don't have to be stuck building on only just one blockchain. But that's kind of like a revolutionary idea, right? That's kind of a little bit, I think, out of the box as of right now. So I think it just doesn't really seem like it could have such mass adoption currently, just because it's a little bit kind of, I guess, a little bit different from what we usually see. But who knows, years later, months later, and I've seen time and time again, during an altcoin season, people usually care about these projects that have certain differentiating features, something that's a little bit different. And Quant, to me, it just seems a little bit different from the side of, or should I say the angle of having this Overledger OS aspect, right, of multi-chain applications. So I do find this pretty sort of unique to me. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I just kind of find that concept pretty interesting, because a lot of other projects out there, they're not really, caring about this type of stuff, or maybe they don't even have the capabilities, who knows, right? In some cases of a project out there, because sometimes these projects, they're built from the ground up a certain way, they can't really just pivot like that. It's like, imagine I build a 10-story building, how can I randomly add 100 stories on top of that, right? The foundation was built for a 10-story building. How can I just randomly add that many floors? Like, it's just hypothetically, maybe in some cases not possible. This is my perspective. So I like how Quant was built from the ground up to kind of handle this type of stuff. But even besides that as well, this is just kind of my update so far when it comes to Quant in 2026. And I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. And if there's going to be more updates when it comes to Quant, hopefully you all stay tuned for that as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.